This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of October 22nd, 2023. Content authenticity statement: 100% of this newsletter was made by me, the human. No AI was used to generate any part of this issue. There's a link in the newsletter to learn why this kind of statement is important. So, what's on my mind this week? The Generative AI Beginner's Kit. One of the most common questions, if not the most common question people ask me on a regular and a frequent basis is, okay, but how do I get started with this stuff, with generative AI? Where do I begin? Which tools should I use? The answer to that question varies based on what you want to do. Do you want to summarize text, write stories, compose artwork? To answer this question, I've put together the Beginner's Generative AI Starter Kit. There's a download in the newsletter for the PDF that has this graphic with working links. It takes you over the Trust Insights website. No forms to fill out. Nothing to, no hassle. Just get the PDF. Link in the newsletter. All right, so let's talk through each of the components in this starter kit because it's important to understand and the philosophy behind it and why I chose what's in there. First, you will notice an absence of specific named vendors for the most part. And there are a lot of good companies out there, right? But you won't find named products for the most part on the starter kit. Instead, it's almost all foundation technologies. This is a conscious choice because the capabilities of foundation models evolve more quickly than most vendors are able to keep up with. For example, less than a month ago, OpenAI released GPT-4V, their multimodal vision model that can see image data you give it and interpret it accordingly. One of the best practices in AI is to stick as close to the foundation models as you can so that as their capabilities grow, your capabilities grow along with them. You want to avoid getting tied to a specific SaaS vendor unless they provide something that's so compelling and so unique that nothing else on the market compares to it. And there's not a lot of companies like that. There are an awful lot of AI companies that are shiny interfaces on someone else's model, so why not use the foundation models? This beginner's kit also has the caveat that many of the tools listed are third-party software, like ChatGPT, right? That is not software you own. There are plenty of circumstances, confidential information, trade secrets, protected information, where using any third-party tool is inappropriate or outright illegal. It is your responsibility as a user to know when you should and should not use any given tool based on the sensitivity of the data you're working with. Let's talk about money briefly. You can use tools in their free versions, but know that the free versions are less capable than their paid cousins. For example, the free version of ChatGPT uses the GPT 3.5 model, which is substantially less powerful and less knowledgeable than the paid version's access to GPT-4V. It's like 3 versions behind now. If you have the budget, pay for the upgrade to ChatGPT, enter Anthropic's Claude 2. They're both $20 a month each, so it's $40 a month there. If you're going to be using these tools for the specific use cases, it is worth the upgrade unless you absolutely positively can't afford it. Okay, that all said, housekeeping out of the way, let's dig into this toolkit. Our first two categories are for purely text-based tasks. If you are working with text that is under 8,000 words, like a blog post, emails, etc., then the tool I recommend is ChatGPT Plus, the paid version, using either the 3.5 or the 4V model. Why? It's the most used, which means it has the most known examples, the most people who can help you if you get stuck. GPT-4 and the 4V model is also the most capable model for these smaller text tasks. Now, GPT-4 has a context window, which is a technical term for working memory, how much it can remember, of between 8,192 and 32,768 tokens. Tokens are roughly 4-letter fragments of words, so the previous paragraph has 90 words and 120 tokens. That's why if you use ChatGPT, even the paid version, extensively in a single long-running chat, it starts to forget things. When you use it for longer than its context window, it forgets what you said early on. It's kind of like this rolling window, like a treadmill. And then as you add new stuff, other stuff falls off the back. That's why for tasks over 8,000 words, I recommend using Anthropic's Claude 2. It has a context window of 100,000 tokens, or roughly about 70,000 words at a time. Now you might say, well, that sounds great. Why not use Claude for everything? Well, it's not as good at some text tasks, particularly reasoning. It really struggles with reasoning. The GPT-4 model in ChatGPT Plus is still the best-in-class model for a lot of these tasks, especially tasks requiring advanced reasoning and data analysis. Okay, on to images. For image generation, there are two good choices. The free choice, Microsoft Bing Image Creator, which uses the OpenAI DALL-E 3 model as its backend. This free image generation, you get about 100 free image generations a day. Very powerful, very good. You need to have a Microsoft account. That's free. And you need to use a Microsoft-supported web browser like Microsoft Edge to use it, especially on a Mac. Thanks, Microsoft. I get it. You can also use this in the Bing mobile app on all mobile platforms. For the paid choice, ChatGPT Plus, the paid version, supports DALL-E 3 natively. So this is actually my preferred choice because unlike the Bing interface, the ChatGPT interface means you can have a conversation in natural language with ChatGPT to refine your images just using regular language. Like, oh, I don't like, that image is not diverse enough. It's not there's not enough people of a certain age, right? There's not a diversity of body types. Let's make the eggs scrambled eggs instead of sunny side up eggs. You can have these conversations, and it will in turn refine the DALL-E 3 prompts on the back end. That's a more intuitive and easier way to work with image generation models. So if you are a beginner and you've got the budget for the ChatGPT Plus, go with ChatGPT Plus with the DALL-E 3 integration. That's I think the best image tool for right now. Creating images is one thing. Analyzing them is another. Right now, there are two models that support image upload and analysis: Google's Bard software and ChatGPT Plus. Bard is free and very capable. In my tests, it's done pretty well with image recognition. ChatGPT Plus is paid. In both cases, you upload an image and then you ask the AI of your choice about, the questions you have about the image. For example, you can upload a picture of your homepage and have it do UI testing. You can upload a page of text that you took a photo of from a book and have it translated. Maybe it's all in Japanese or something. You can upload a photo of a meal and ask it to list common ingredients and recipes for that meal. ChatGPT Plus struggles with relatively rare images. So I tried some Japanese calligraphy, non-standard ways of writing certain characters and stuff, and it right off the rails. And Bard didn't do any better. So there are some caveats there. And the only thing neither model is permitted to do right now is work on images of human faces. Right? It will just say, nope, can't do it. So, for example, if you're going to upload your homepage for UI testing and your homepage has a picture of a human face on it, you've got to black that out. Just put a black square over the image so that the model doesn't get all messed up. Now, let's talk about real-time information like news and current events. Tools like ChatGPT in all its incarnations have language models. These are trained on known data sets, and these data sets are not current. ChatGPT ends its window of awareness at January 2022. That's a long time ago, right? Claude stops at October 2022. That's a year ago now. If you need data that's more current, you need to use an AI that's connected to real-time data sources. The two best choices here, Google Bard and Microsoft Bing. Both use their language models to build search queries, and they pass those search queries to their existing search services, then interpret the search results and rewrite the responses from the search services as language. So this is the best way to handle fresh information. If you are asking about how's the war in Ukraine doing, right? These are the services that are going to have that information. When it comes to analyzing data, tabular data, rectangular data, if you will, you can certainly input CSV or tabular data in text prompts, but it's much easier, much easier to simply upload a spreadsheet and have the AI systems do the analysis on that. Same is true for Excel files and other data formats. Today, the best tool for data analysis with AI is OpenAI's ChatGPT Plus with its advanced data analysis module. It walks through the analysis. It produces operating code at every step, and this allows you to store the code it generates in case you want to run it again later. It's also capable of the most advanced forms of data science and statistics. If you can code it in Python for data analysis, ChatGPT Plus can write it for you. The exception here is there's some data, as I mentioned earlier, which should absolutely never, ever, ever be put into third-party systems. Data that contains personally identifying information, sensitive protected information, protected health information, classified documents, state secrets, trade secrets. The list goes on and on of information you should not be putting into somebody else's systems. For situations like this, you must use AI that runs on your network or your computer, and your data never leaves those systems. Open source models like Llama 2 and interfaces like LM Studio, both of which are free, are the way to safely use AI with sensitive information. These take more effort to set up, and they do have some hardware requirements. If your laptop can play, Call of Duty or another, AAA video game title and can play it at top resolution without blowing up, then you can for sure run these systems. If your laptop can't really play video games, it's just not suited for it, you're going to have a hard time running these tools. But this is the way to safely use AI with sensitive information. These things, like I said, LM Studio and these models, they're free of cost, and they are ideal for handling information that should not be in the hands of third parties without restriction. If you install these things and run them, you can unplug the internet. You can turn off your Wi-Fi, pull out all the cables, and the models will run because they're all running locally on your machine. Finally, when it comes to coding, there are two choices. For writing most coding languages, ChatGPT Plus, using the GPT-4 model, is arguably one of the best general tools on the market today. It can write in a multitude of languages, old and new, from COBOL, really, to modern languages like Swift and Python. Pro tip, by the way, for those working in financial services and other places with legacy mainframes, if your COBOL programmer has retired, ChatGPT can help. There are specific open source models that can outperform the GPT-4 model for certain languages. CodeLlama, for example, from Meta does so. It is a fantastic tool, but it's really focused on Python. So if you want to be doing Python coding, CodeLlama is a great model to look at. If you're doing something like R or PHP, not so much. Now, let's be clear. This is not all the use cases of generative AI. This isn't even close, but this is a good starter kit for someone who's just getting their feet wet, and a good generalist kit for accomplishing most tasks. These tools are the best starter kit on the market today, and I mean literally today. There's absolutely no guarantee. A better tool in any of these categories won't be released, tomorrow, making this whole thing obsolete. So I'm going to try and keep this up to date. The download, again, it's free, no forms to fill out. Go grab it, but expect to have to come back every couple of months and grab a new version. Finally, an utterly shameless plug. If you would like help getting training or strategic consulting on the deployment of AI in your organization, go to trustinsights.ai/AI services to see all the different ways we can help. All right. What else was happening this week? This week I did a piece on how AI will impact influencer marketing, particularly large language models. It's a very interesting thought starter in there. Also did some stuff on B2B influencer marketing success and predictions for B2B influencer marketing in 2024. That one is a piece that is all about data. Influencer marketing as a whole, B2B, B2C, B2 anything, is in a lot of trouble right now because we just have less data. There's just less data available. With the demise of Twitter and its diaspora, it's much harder to do influencer marketing. Also this week on the live stream, we had a revising and a revisiting look at video SEO tactics. It's been a couple of years since we did a show on that, so we caught up on what's the latest in terms of what's working for video SEO. So go check that out. Let's take a look at jobs. Got a big pile this week. Chief Marketing Officer at SideTrade, also at ExecThread. Digital Marketing Director at LaSalle Network. Global Marketing Director at Steps Drama Learning Development. Marketing Director at Sandbox Banking and also at Xenosci Ventures. VP of Marketing at Auto Driveway Systems, Storm6 and Finley James. Also Ignition Growth and Kaizen Executive Search. VP of Accounts at ViewStream, VP of Marketing at Entree Institute, and VP of Marketing at CD Recruitment. So lots of leadership positions this week. Let's see what's happening in other news. We have a PSA. Meta is showing your Threads data to your friends and family on Facebook. Just no surprise there. Yeah, that's all typical of Meta. We have, as usual, no shortage of content about generative AI. Big news on the Google front. This past 2 weeks, Google rolled out its helpful content update at the beginning of October, and a lot of sites have seen ups and downs from that, so be sure to check out your site. And there's some articles about what to do if you got beaten up by that. There's a good comparative study of Llama Index versus LangChain. We also have a very interesting piece on bringing generative AI to life with NVIDIA Jetson, which are these little boxes that NVIDIA makes that are basically a GPU in a box. They're super powerful little computers. They're expensive. The Jetson Orin, I think, is like $2,000, but if you want to be running like a generative AI powerhouse and you don't want to just buy, a room full of servers, these little boxes are really, really stuffed to the gills with tech, because it's worth checking into. Google Analytics 360, the Universal Analytics version, sunsets in March of 2024. So you have 5 months to go and update and move over to the GA4 360 version. Other things, this past week, there were a couple of interesting studies about the use of antihistamines with COVID-19. Specifically, COVID apparently doesn't function well in the presence of antihistamines, which was news to me. There were some studies that showed that if people who are on antihistamines like hydroxyzine and diphenhydramine, COVID had a hard time working, and it tended to mitigate symptoms of long COVID. So those studies are worth reading. As with all healthcare stuff, please check with your doctor or authorized healthcare provider before making any changes to your healthcare. All right. Upcoming events. This week I'm in Washington, D.C. for the SMPS AEC AI Summit, followed by Digital Now in Denver in the first week of November. Then we have AI Impact Online also in November, and then the Lab Products Association in November, then Social Media Marketing World in February, and then already booked for MACON, the Marketing AI Conference, in September of 2024. That's how busy this space is. If you have or want to have a private for your company keynote talk or workshop, whatever, there's a form in the newsletter. Fill it out. More than happy to discuss what that could look like for your company. Been doing a lot of those recently, and people seem to have found them helpful. So that is the news for this week. Thank you for your attention as always, and I'll talk to you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and if you want to know when new videos are available, hit the bell button to be notified as soon as new content is live.